When all others left the Queen, the human remained to stand guard HFY. Outside, the twin suns of the planet painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, but the beauty could not hide the sense of danger that gripped the palace. The enemy fleet, known across the galaxy for its ruthless efficiency, had appeared without warning. Their ships darkened the skies, blotting out the light, a looming threat that sent even the bravest soldiers into panic. The alien queen, Ilaria, sat upon her throne, her golden robes flowing around her like liquid fire. She looked calm, but her eyes betrayed a mixture of worry and disbelief. Her court had been trained for situations like this, yet one by one, her guards and advisors were abandoning her. First, a dozen elite warriors had hurried out of the throne room, claiming they had orders to protect the palace perimeter. Then, advisors whispered excuses and slipped away through secret passages, their loyalty crumbling like sand. The queen watched each departure with a quiet, cold fury. She had ruled Lyrathia for decades, and yet in the moment she needed them most, her people had chosen their own lives over hers. Among the chaos, one figure stood apart. A human soldier standing straight and steady, his eyes scanning the horizon from the balcony above. He was not tall by Lyrathian standards, nor did he carry the heavy armor that most guards relied on. But he radiated something different, an unwavering determination that no amount of fear or chaos could shake. His name was Commander Ethan Ryland, a human who had traveled light years from Earth to serve as a liaison and protector. The Lyrathians had initially dismissed him as fragile, inexperienced, and far too small to matter in their grand battles. Yet now, as the palace fell into disorder, it was Ethan who remained. "Sir, the perimeter is breached," one of the panicked alien soldiers shouted as he ran past Ethan, his voice trembling. "The enemy is inside the outer walls. We need to retreat. And leave the Queen. That is not an option." With a frightened glance, the soldier ran past him, leaving Ethan standing tall and unshaken. Queen Ilaria watched him with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. She had never trusted outsiders completely, yet here was one who showed bravery she had never seen from her own people. His presence was unsettling, but also inspiring. She shifted slightly on her throne, watching as Ethan walked down the wide stairs toward the main hall, readying himself for whatever came next. The palace corridors were filled with hurried, fearful movements. Tapestries fluttered as soldiers dashed past, doors slammed, and alarms echoed through the vast halls. Ethan moved with calm precision, checking the security consoles, activating emergency defenses, and giving orders to the few remaining loyal guards. His knowledge of strategy was unusual for a Lyrathian court. He combined his human instincts with an understanding of alien technology in ways no one expected. He was a stranger, yes, but he acted as if he belonged not to the palace but to the mission itself. Protect the Queen no matter the cost. "Your Highness," Ethan said, approaching Queen Ilaria, who still sat upon her throne, "we cannot hold the outer walls forever. But if we focus on the inner sanctum, we have a chance to delay them and protect you. And I do not plan to fail." The first wave of enemy troops struck shortly after. They were swift and precise, moving through the shattered outer defenses with terrifying efficiency. The few Lyrathian guards who remained tried to fight, but most were quickly overwhelmed. Ethan stood at the front, using every ounce of his training to slow their advance. He triggered automated turrets, activated force fields, and guided the remaining soldiers to strategic points. Every decision was quick, precise, and effective. The Queen followed from a secure balcony, her heart pounding as she witnessed the unfolding battle. She could see the enemy soldiers moving closer, and yet Ethan was a constant, always at the point of danger, always countering, always protecting. His movements were fluid, almost instinctive, as he combined human tactics with the palace's alien technology. Every trap he set, every position he reinforced, bought precious minutes, and minutes in a battle like this could mean life or death. In a brief lull, Ethan returned to the throne room to check on the queen. Dust and debris covered his uniform and there was a faint cut on his forehead, but he did not falter. "Your Highness," he said, bowing slightly out of respect, "we are holding for now, but the enemy will not stop. We must prepare for what comes next." For the first time, she considered the possibility that humanity was not weak, not fragile, and not inferior, but capable of something far greater than she had imagined. The palace trembled as the enemy's next wave approached. Ethan was already at his station, issuing orders, positioning defenses, and preparing for the inevitable assault. The queen remained on her balcony, her eyes fixed on him, realizing that he was no ordinary soldier. He was something else entirely, a symbol of courage, of loyalty, of the human spirit. As the first enemy soldiers breached the inner hall, Ethan met them head-on. His movements were precise and efficient, striking with the confidence of someone who knew no fear. The few remaining Lyrathian guards rallied around him, their morale restored by his unwavering presence. What had seemed like an impossible defense now held a glimmer of hope, and the queen felt a strange warmth in her chest. Perhaps, she thought, not all hope was lost. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The battle raged on in the corridors, the palace shaking from explosions and the clanging of metal. Yet Ethan did not falter. He moved like a whirlwind, a human among aliens, using ingenuity, courage, and skill to protect the queen. Every step he took inspired those around him, and even those who had fled earlier began to whisper his name with awe and disbelief. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the palace, there was a temporary silence. The enemy had pulled back, regrouping for another assault. The palace still stood, battered but unbroken, and at the heart of it all, standing before the queen, was the human who had refused to leave, who had faced impossible odds without hesitation. Queen Ilaria descended from her balcony and stood beside him, her eyes meeting his. She said nothing at first, simply observing the human who had done what no Lyrathian dared. Then quietly she said, "You have stayed when all others fled. That is something no one can ignore. That is all that matters." As night fell over Lyrathia, the palace lights flickered and the distant hum of the enemy fleet echoed across the horizon. But inside the walls, for the first time in many long years, there was hope. The human remained, and as long as he did, the queen would not face the coming storm alone. The sun had set completely, leaving the palace of Lyrathia bathed in the cold glow of distant stars. The enemy had not abandoned their assault. Instead, they waited, striking intermittently and testing the palace's defenses. The corridors, once alive with activity, were now shadows of their former selves, echoing with distant footsteps and the hum of alien technology. Inside the inner sanctum, the queen and the human soldier, Ethan Ryland, prepared for the next wave. Ethan walked calmly through the corridors, inspecting each defense system. Turrets hummed quietly, force fields shimmered faintly, and barricades were reinforced. Every detail mattered and every second counted. Despite the exhaustion that tugged at his muscles, he moved with precision, methodically checking every possible breach point. The queen followed him silently, observing how he worked. Unlike the Lyrathians, whose loyalty often wavered in the face of danger, Ethan's focus never faltered. He was unwavering, relentless, and utterly dependable. "Your Highness," Ethan said, stopping at a control panel, "these automated defenses can hold for a while, but if they send in enough troops, the outer layers will collapse. We need a plan for the inner sanctum. If we channel them through these corridors and bottleneck their forces, we can manage them more efficiently. I'll need volunteers to coordinate traps and cover points. Then I will do it myself, but I suggest we give them the chance to fight alongside us. Humans understand that courage is contagious. Sometimes, leadership is simply showing the way." For the first time, she wondered if she had underestimated humans all along. The first team of loyal guards, inspired by Ethan's courage, agreed to help. They moved swiftly under his direction, setting up additional barricades, preparing improvised explosives, and readying energy pulses to disrupt enemy movements. Ethan worked side by side with them, showing them exactly how to position themselves, how to time their attacks, and how to maintain calm under pressure. Slowly, morale began to rise among the defenders, a spark of hope that had been absent since the enemy first arrived. As the night deepened, the first serious wave of enemies struck. They moved silently at first, creeping along the outer corridors, attempting to breach the inner defenses. Ethan and the Queen watched from a control room overlooking the central hall. "Here they come," Ethan said, his voice low but steady. He activated the first set of traps, a series of electrified grids designed to delay their advance. The enemies faltered, unsure of the sudden obstacles, giving the defenders crucial seconds to respond. The Queen leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the console. She could see the enemy's confusion as they tried to adapt, and her respect for the human grew. This was not luck or brute force. It was strategy, observation, and courage, combined in a way she had never seen before. Ethan moved through the corridors with a small team, engaging enemy units with precise, controlled strikes. Each movement was efficient, avoiding unnecessary risk while maximizing the effect on the enemy. The Lyrathian guards beside him were amazed, not only by his skill but by his calm under pressure. Every time one faltered, Ethan encouraged them, directing them to positions where they could contribute without being overwhelmed. "Human," one guard shouted, "how are you so calm? Focus on what you can control, and the rest will follow." "Your Highness," Ethan said, bowing slightly as he approached, "we are managing the first wave, but they will not stop. The main assault will come soon. My people have never seen this before." Sparks flew from damaged conduits, and alarms blared throughout the corridors. The defenders braced themselves, and Ethan took charge immediately. He moved like a conductor, coordinating each team, ensuring that no point was left undefended. He used alien weapons in ways they were never intended to be used, combining human improvisation with Lyrathian technology. Energy pulse generators were repositioned, automated drones redirected, and barricades adjusted to funnel the enemy into kill zones. Every move was calculated to buy time and minimize casualties. The Queen watched, astonished. She had faced countless battles and seen many generals in her time, but none had moved with the precision, courage, and creativity that this human displayed. His leadership was quiet, yet undeniable. Slowly, she realized that humans were not the fragile beings she had assumed. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of feats that aliens could not anticipate. Hours passed. The palace was battered, but the inner sanctum remained intact. Ethan and the remaining defenders fought tirelessly, rotating positions to ensure that no one became exhausted. Every time a Lyrathian guard began to falter, Ethan was there, steadying them, giving them instructions, or taking their place in the most dangerous positions. His presence alone boosted morale, creating a ripple effect that spread courage throughout the remaining forces. At one point, the Queen approached him, moving carefully through the control room. "Human," she said quietly, "you risk your life for mine. I do not understand why. Your species has no obligation to me." "Because no one should be abandoned in their moment of need." The night wore on, and the enemy launched wave after wave of attacks. Each time, Ethan adapted, observing patterns, predicting moves, and countering them effectively. He became more than a soldier. He became a symbol of resistance, a living example of human ingenuity and courage. Even the Queen's remaining advisors, once skeptical, began to see him not as an outsider but as an essential force in their survival. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to touch the horizon, the enemy's assault slowed. They retreated, temporarily confused and battered, regrouping their forces. The palace was scarred, corridors filled with debris, and many guards were injured, but the inner sanctum remained protected. The human stood amidst it all, breathing heavily, yet alert, ready for the next move. Queen Ilaria approached him once more, her golden eyes scanning his face. "Human," she said softly, "tonight you have proven what I could not have imagined. You have held this palace when all others fled. Your courage is remarkable. Not because her empire was strong or her guards were loyal, but because one human had shown her that courage and loyalty could defy fear and expectation. She realized that humanity, though young and untested in the galaxy, had something unique, something that could change the course of battles, inspire hope, and shift the balance in ways she had never expected. As dawn broke, painting the palace in shades of gold and silver, Ethan and the Queen looked out over the damaged city. The enemy fleet was still visible, a dark blot on the horizon, but the palace had endured. And at its heart, the human soldier remained, steadfast and vigilant, a living testament to the power of courage, loyalty, and the human spirit. This night would be remembered, not for the fear, destruction, or chaos, but for the one who stood firm when all others left. Ethan Ryland, a human among aliens, had proven that even in the darkest hour, humanity could rise, unwavering, and inspire all who witnessed it. And as the Queen watched him, she silently vowed that she would not forget this lesson, nor the human who had shown her in action what it truly meant to stand guard when all others fled. The morning light did little to ease the tension in the palace of Lyrathia. The city outside was scarred from the enemy's bombardment, smoke rising from collapsed buildings and fires flickering across the horizon. The enemy fleet had retreated briefly, but Ethan Ryland knew this was only temporary. The main assault was coming, stronger and more determined than ever. Every corridor, every defense point, and every guard would be tested to its limits. Ethan moved quickly through the palace, inspecting barricades and checking weapon systems. His human instincts told him that timing and precision would be everything in the battle ahead. Alien technology was advanced, but its rigid patterns could be predicted and manipulated. He combined his Earth-based combat experience with the alien systems, creating defenses that no Lyrathian would have considered. Queen Ilaria followed him silently, her golden robes trailing behind her. She had watched Ethan in the previous night's battle, and what she had seen had shifted her perception of humanity. He was not merely brave, he was intelligent, adaptable, and utterly fearless. Every decision he made demonstrated a combination of instinct and training that inspired those around him. "Your Highness," Ethan said, stopping at a control panel that monitored the palace's outer corridors. "They will come from 3 directions this time. I suggest we concentrate our forces here and here," he said, pointing to strategic choke points. "If we channel them into these areas, we can hold them off until reinforcements arrive." She had seen many warriors in her life, many who claimed courage but faltered in the heat of battle. Ethan's courage was different. It was steady, reliable, and contagious. She realized that this human soldier had a quality that no Lyrathian possessed, the ability to inspire others not through words, but through unwavering action. The first signs of the assault came mid-morning. The enemy's main force approached the palace, moving in coordinated formations with heavy armor and advanced weapons. The palace shook with the impact of energy blasts striking the outer walls, and alarms rang throughout the corridors. Ethan was already at his post, issuing precise instructions to the remaining guards. "Focus fire on the advancing units," he called, his voice calm but commanding. "Do not waste energy. Use the traps we set and push them into the kill zones. Hold your ground." Ethan led the first counterattack personally, moving through the corridors with precision and efficiency. His strikes were calculated, each one disabling enemy units while minimizing risk to himself and others. He combined human hand-to-hand techniques with alien weapons, creating a fluid, unpredictable fighting style. The enemy, expecting predictable patterns, was caught off guard again and again. Queen Ilaria observed from a secure vantage point, her heart pounding as she watched the battle unfold. She had faced countless conflicts in her life, but she had never seen a single individual turn the tide of a battle so decisively. The human moved through the chaos like a force of nature, adapting to every situation, turning weaknesses into advantages and inspiring the defenders around him. At one point, a group of heavily armored enemy soldiers broke through a barricade, charging toward the inner sanctum. Ethan anticipated their move. With a swift motion, he triggered a hidden energy pulse that stunned the intruders, buying time for the guards to regroup and push them back. The queen gasped, impressed by his foresight and tactical brilliance. "Remarkable," she whispered to herself. "A single human can achieve what an entire battalion could not." He moved from point to point, reinforcing weak spots, coordinating defensive maneuvers, and personally engaging the most dangerous threats. His presence was a rallying point for the defenders, a constant reminder that courage and skill could overcome even the most daunting odds. The enemy launched wave after wave, each more intense than the last. Their leaders attempted to adapt, but Ethan was always one step ahead, predicting their moves and countering them effectively. He was more than a soldier. He was a strategist, a leader, and a symbol of human resilience. In the midst of the chaos, the queen noticed something extraordinary. The human's adaptability was not just in combat, it was in his understanding of the people around him. He recognized fear, hesitancy, and exhaustion, and he used encouragement, presence, and example to transform those weaknesses into strength. Every guard who followed him fought with renewed determination, turning the tide of skirmishes that might have otherwise been lost. Hours passed, though it felt like mere minutes. The palace walls were scarred, corridors littered with debris, and the air thick with smoke and tension. Yet Ethan never wavered. He moved tirelessly, always present at the points of greatest danger, his calm and focus a stark contrast to the panic that had gripped the palace the night before. Finally, the enemy commander, realizing that their usual tactics were failing, ordered a concentrated strike on the throne room itself. A squadron of elite units, heavily armed and trained for precision, advanced with the clear objective of capturing or killing the queen. Ethan immediately recognized the threat. "High-priority target, throne room," he shouted. "Form a defensive perimeter. Protect the queen at all costs." Queen Ilaria watched in awe as Ethan stood between her and certain death, a human defying overwhelming odds. Her respect for him deepened, and for the first time she considered what humanity could truly achieve in the galaxy. Here was a species she had underestimated, capable of courage, skill, and loyalty beyond anything she had imagined. The elite squad was relentless, but Ethan remained unshaken. He anticipated their movements, countered their attacks, and used the palace's defenses to his advantage. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a force that reshaped the battlefield with every decision, every strike, and every strategic placement. The queen felt a mixture of fear and admiration as she observed the scene. She had always relied on strength, technology, and numbers, but this human had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could surpass all of that. She realized that the legends she had heard about humanity, its unpredictability and resilience, were true. Here, in the heat of battle, it was being proven before her eyes. Hours turned into an exhausting battle of endurance. Ethan and the defenders held the throne room against relentless waves, each attack more intense than the last. Yet despite fatigue, injuries, and the overwhelming numbers of the enemy, Ethan's determination never faltered. His presence inspired hope, courage, and unity among the defenders, turning fear into action and despair into resilience. Finally, the enemy commander realized that the throne room could not be taken without suffering devastating losses. Reluctantly, the remaining forces withdrew, regrouping and retreating to a distance. The palace was battered, corridors scarred, and defenders weary, but the queen remained unharmed. The human soldier had held the line when all others might have failed. Ethan stood in the throne room, breathing heavily, his uniform torn and scorched, his body marked by scratches and bruises. Yet his eyes were clear, alert, and focused. He looked at the queen, who now approached him without hesitation. "Human," Ilaria said, her voice calm but carrying weight, "you have done what none could have expected. You have defended me, the throne, and this palace against impossible odds. You are not just brave, you are extraordinary." She had always relied on power, politics, and the loyalty of her people, but she now understood that true strength could come from unexpected places. Humanity, represented by this single soldier, had shown her a new way to think about courage, loyalty, and leadership. As dawn fully broke, casting golden light across the damaged palace, the queen turned her gaze outward. The city bore the scars of battle, but the palace still stood, defended by the unwavering courage of one human. She realized that the legends she had heard about humans being unpredictable, resourceful, and courageous were not myths. They were real. And at the center of it all, Ethan Ryland remained, standing guard, a beacon of human strength and loyalty in a galaxy that often underestimated them. His actions had changed the course of the battle, inspired those around him, and proven that even in the darkest hour, humanity could rise to meet any challenge. Queen Ilaria knew, without doubt, that she had witnessed something extraordinary. She had seen a human warrior stand alone against overwhelming odds, protect what was most precious, and inspire courage where it was needed most. His presence had altered her understanding of the galaxy and of the species she had once dismissed. In the quiet after the battle, Ethan remained vigilant, scanning the corridors and monitoring the city beyond the palace walls. The enemy might return, stronger and more determined, but for now, the inner sanctum was safe. The queen looked at him with a newfound respect and a quiet, unspoken gratitude. "You have shown me the strength of your species," she said softly, "and I will not forget it." "That is my promise." Ethan Ryland had proven that even against impossible odds, loyalty, intelligence, and bravery could triumph, and in doing so, he had earned a place not just as a guard, but as a legend in the eyes of the queen and her people. The aftermath of the battle left the palace of Lyrathia scarred but standing. Smoke rose from shattered towers, and distant fires still flickered across the city. The air carried the scent of ozone and burning metal, a harsh reminder of the night's fierce conflict. Yet inside the palace walls, there was an unusual sense of calm. The enemy had retreated, regrouping far beyond the horizon, for now. But the memory of what had transpired lingered, and one figure remained at the center of it all: Ethan Ryland, the human who had stood firm when all others had fled. Queen Ilaria moved through the corridors with a quiet grace, inspecting the damage. Her golden robes, once immaculate, were now speckled with dust and ash, but her composure remained untouched. She had survived, and so had her palace, thanks to the unwavering courage of a human soldier. The realization that one individual, an outsider, a species she had never fully trusted, had saved her, and the throne weighed heavily on her mind. Ethan stood near the central command room, checking the status of the remaining defenses. Though exhausted, he moved with careful precision, making sure that every point was secure and that no hidden threats remained. His body bore the marks of the battle, cuts, bruises, and scorched uniform, but his resolve was unbroken. Even after hours of relentless combat, his eyes were alert, scanning, calculating, and preparing for whatever might come next. "Human," the queen called softly, her voice echoing through the hall. Ethan turned, meeting her gaze. She approached him, her expression unreadable for a moment before softening. "You have done more than protect me," she said quietly. "You have shown a strength and courage that I did not believe existed outside our own kind. You have earned my respect, and more than that, you have earned the trust of my people." She had seen warriors from countless worlds, generals with experience spanning decades, and yet none had moved with the precision, bravery, and unwavering focus that this human displayed. She realized that humanity possessed a rare combination of qualities: resilience, adaptability, and an unpredictable courage that no rigid hierarchy could suppress. The remaining guards and staff slowly began to regroup, their morale strengthened by the humans' actions. Those who had fled the night before returned cautiously, peering around corners and whispering among themselves. When they saw Ethan standing calm and steady, unshaken by the chaos that had surrounded him, many felt shame for their earlier abandonment. But more than that, they felt hope. If one human could face overwhelming odds and remain steadfast, perhaps they could rise to meet their own fears as well. Ethan guided the recovering forces, ensuring that the palace defenses remained intact. He checked on injured guards, gave instructions to those restoring damaged systems, and prepared for the possibility of another assault. His movements were methodical, precise, and reassuring. The Queen watched him, increasingly aware that his presence was more than protective, it was transformative. His courage was teaching them all that fear could be met with resolve, that loyalty could overcome panic, and that determination could change the outcome of even the most hopeless situations. Later, the Queen called Ethan to the throne room. The walls were scorched and debris littered the floor, but the chamber still stood as a symbol of resilience. She seated herself and gestured for him to approach. "Ethan," she said, her voice carrying the weight of both authority and gratitude, "tonight, you proved that humans are capable of greatness beyond what I had imagined. You risked yourself for my life and for the lives of those who could not stand on their own. That courage will not be forgotten." She had ruled with power, strategy, and the loyalty of her court, but she had never considered the strength that came from sheer resolve. Humans, she realized, were not bound by the same fears and expectations that limited her people. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of extraordinary bravery. Ethan had not just protected her, he had taught her a lesson in leadership, courage, and the enduring value of loyalty. As the day wore on, the palace began to repair itself. Engineers and guards worked tirelessly, repairing damaged walls, recalibrating defense systems, and clearing debris from corridors. Yet even amidst the flurry of activity, Ethan remained vigilant. He inspected each repaired section, checked for potential weaknesses, and ensured that the palace would be ready if the enemy returned. His focus was relentless, driven not by orders or obligation, but by a deep sense of responsibility. The Queen observed him from a distance, her respect growing with every action. She understood now that leadership was not just about command, it was about presence, example, and the ability to inspire courage in others. Ethan had done this without authority, without expectation of reward, and without hesitation. His bravery was quiet, unwavering, and profoundly impactful. In the late afternoon, the Queen approached him again. "Ethan," she said, her voice soft but firm, "the people of Lyrathia will speak of this night for generations. They will tell of the human who stood when all others fled. I want you to know that your actions will be remembered not just by me, but by all who survive this night. Courage is its own reward. Protecting those who cannot protect themselves is all the honor I need." That selflessness, combined with skill and determination, made them unlike any other species she had encountered. As night fell once more, the palace stood resilient, a testament to the humans' bravery and the Queen's leadership. The city beyond bore the scars of battle, but it was alive. People began to emerge from hiding, cautiously returning to their homes, inspired by the knowledge that one human had faced impossible odds and prevailed. Ethan had shown them that courage could change outcomes, that loyalty could inspire hope, and that even in the darkest times, determination could shine brightly. The Queen and Ethan stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns had set, replaced by a sky full of stars and the distant glow of fires still burning. Ilaria's golden eyes reflected the city below, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude and understanding. She had underestimated humans, dismissed them as fragile and inexperienced, but one human had changed everything. "You have done more than protect me," she said softly. "You have changed how I see your entire species. Humans are not weak. They are brave, resourceful, and capable of extraordinary deeds. You have proven that tonight. That is all any of us can do." She understood now that humans could be trusted, respected, and even revered for their ability to rise above fear and challenge. In the days that followed, the palace was repaired, and the city began to recover. The queen formally recognized Ethan's role, granting him a position of honor and respect among her court. He did not seek power or reward, but accepted the recognition with quiet dignity. His presence remained a symbol of courage and loyalty, inspiring both humans and Lyrathians alike. Word of Ethan's bravery spread throughout the galaxy, carried by messengers, transmissions, and whispers among traders and diplomats. Humans became known not just for their strength or technology, but for their courage, adaptability, and loyalty in the face of impossible odds. The story of one soldier who stood when all others fled became a legend, reminding every species that bravery is not bound by size, shape, or origin. It is defined by action. Queen Ilaria often stood beside Ethan on the palace balcony, watching the horizon, reflecting on the night that had changed everything. She had learned that true strength often comes from unexpected places, and that courage and loyalty are the greatest weapons any species can possess. And Ethan Ryland remained at her side, vigilant, unwavering, and ready. He had proven that humans could face any challenge, defy expectation, and inspire hope. In the vast galaxy, filled with uncertainty, conflict, and fear, one human had shown that courage could shine brighter than any star, and loyalty could endure even in the darkest hour. As the twin suns rose once more over Lyrathia, the palace stood tall and proud. The queen knew that as long as Ethan remained, the kingdom was safe, not just from enemies but from despair and doubt. Humanity, represented by one steadfast soldier, had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to stand guard when all others had left. The legend of that night would live on forever, carried in stories, songs, and the hearts of those who witnessed it. And at the center of it all stood a human, proving that courage, loyalty, and determination could change the fate of a queen, a palace, and perhaps even the galaxy itself.